Hyundai is on a roll at the moment with brave design, world-class EV tech and a newfound lower premium brand position, making it one of the most popular brands in the UK. The Hyundai Ioniq 6 looks likely to continue that reign, with the executive saloon's aerodynamic styling helping it to a WLTP range of up to 338 miles from its 74 kWh usable battery.
Let's get it out there then. This is Hyundai's Tesla Model 3. Now, the Model 3 was the second best-selling EV in the UK last year, after the Tesla Model Y actually, and Tesla sold 1.3 million cars globally, so it's not hard to see why the Model 3 does tend to remain something of a yardstick for all of its rivals. But I think that this, the Ioniq 6, could make a real dent in that yardstick. For a start, I think it looks really cool. It's just very intriguing, isn't it? It's apparently, according to Hyundai, inspired by 1930s aircraft, which is why they tend to call this a streamliner, because it's all about the aerodynamics. Everything's about kind of minimising sort of very minimalist surfacing, keeping it all very sleek and streamlined. Personally, I think it looks great from the front. I see real echoes of the Hyundai Coupe there, which I personally really love. I find it a little bit odd at the back, it's a bit awkward, but I know loads of people that love it, and it definitely looks distinctive and different, and that in itself is appealing, isn't it? So I do think it looks great.
You can get the Ioniq 6 with rear-wheel drive from a single 225 brake horsepower electric motor, or a dual motor all-wheel drive model gets 321 brake horsepower, which takes the 0 to 62 mph time down from 7.4 seconds to 5.1 seconds. Prices start from £47,000 for the base premium trim or £50,500 for ultimate. That gets a standard sunroof and a head-up display, and you'll pay £3,500 on top of both of those prices to step up to a dual motor model.
Now, Tesla changes its prices every 30 minutes, naturally, but as it is, certainly the Ioniq 6 is quite a bit more expensive than the Model 3. It's much more on a par with cars like the BMW i4 and the Polestar 2. But the Ioniq 6 is a bit longer than those cars, so it's 4.9 metres long, this car, so you would expect it to be really quite good on practicality, and in many respects it is, but in the boot you might be a tiny bit disappointed if you're expecting a really huge boot space. So you've got this fairly sort of smallish saloon boot opening. It is deep though, so don't get me wrong here, I think the average family is going to be absolutely fine with the boot. It's not tiny, and you've got a bit of underfloor storage in there, but certainly hatchback rivals, particularly the Volkswagen ID.7, which is even bigger than this, they're going to be even more practical if that's a priority to you. That wheelbase length in the Ioniq 6 definitely pays off in terms of legroom. I mean, look at this. That is my driving position in front of me. I'm 5'7", so pretty average height, but that is crazy amounts of legroom, even by sort of EV standards. That's really impressive. But where the roof is really raked back for that aerodynamic efficiency, well, that does mean that actually taller people, I think, are going to be a bit short of headroom, which is a shame. But even so, really comfortable back here, flat floor all the way through. You get a centre rear armrest. These seats do fold down as well, and so you can get through loading into the boot if you need. Generally, it's very good. I do think that this material, this is a premium spec car, so it's the cheaper of the Ioniq 6 models. I think this material feels a little bit cheap, but I don't think anybody's going to quibble with that. It still feels absolutely great back here.
The dash in the Ioniq 6 feels like a bit of a step up in perceived quality over the Ioniq 5. You get heated front seats and steering wheel, vehicle-to-load charging, and a 12.3-inch touchscreen is on every model. Go for the ultimate trim, and you can also pay extra to have cameras in place of side mirrors, although we did try this out and found that the screens are a little hard to see in bright light, so we definitely stick with the conventional mirrors.
Powered lumbar adjustment is standard as well, which is great, and generally it's a really comfortable driving position in here. You can sit quite low, which I really like, and actually forward visibility isn't too bad, but this windscreen being really raked back, bit of a blind spot there, and rear visibility definitely a bit limited. It's as you'd expect really, it's not terrible, and you do get a reversing camera as standard. Maybe the sort of upholstery upgrade in the higher trims would be welcome, but definitely feels classy enough in here. I'd say better than a Model 3, but definitely not up there with stuff like much more expensive BMW i4, even the Volkswagen ID.7, Polestar 2. I think they're all a notch up from the Ioniq 6. Of course, you get the 12.3-inch touchscreen here as standard. This is all going to be very familiar if you've ever been in an Ioniq 5. I do think it's one of the best systems out there. It's just very straightforward. It's kind of got everything that you want, all your connections. You've got CarPlay and Android Auto. Of course, you've got your nav. You've got really nice EV readout that gives you all the information you want. I just think that Ioniq's kind of got it sorted really on that front, and separate aircon controls. Praise be.
An 800-volt electrical system allows charging of up to 220 kilowatts, so if you find a powerful enough charger and the right conditions, you can have a 10 to 80% top-up in under 20 minutes. Plug into a standard 7 kilowatt home charger and you'll have a full battery in under 12 hours.
The Ioniq 6 is based on the same platform as the Ioniq 5, and I love the Ioniq 5, but I always found that it was a little bit sort of wobbly. Body control was quite floaty, and that was one thing that, in fact the only thing really that I found a bit off-putting about the 5. That is something that the Ioniq 6 has absolutely ironed out. This car feels really kind of rock solid in terms of its body control, really nice. It just feels nice and taut and more of a driver's car, which is exactly what this needs to be. It's not a sports saloon, but these executive saloons need to be fun when you want them to be fun. It's actually, this particular car, this is as cheap as an Ioniq 6 gets. This is a basic premium rear-wheel drive Ioniq 6. The only option on this car is the metallic red paint. And I think it still feels like a really classy car, drives really nicely, more than enough power as well. So I'm really impressed on that front. It doesn't thrill me, I think. I mean, even in sports mode, so you can toggle through your drive modes here. You've got sport, normal and eco, and that affects the steering, throttle response. In sport, steering's nice and heavy, but it's not playful in the way that the BMW i4, which I would say still the best of the sort of compact executives at this price, definitely in terms of the way it drives. Ride comfort isn't what I would like it to be. Over undulations, particularly high speed, this is really good. It feels really composed, really nice, but when it comes to potholes, even that kind of lightly eroded tarmac that you get all over the place in the UK, it really picks it up. And I just feel like it never sort of settles down enough over those kind of higher frequency surface intrusions. It's a shame because everything else about this car feels really well sorted.
We also had a go in the high-powered dual motor car, which has a really nice, easy to modulate yet entertaining turn of pace. It does still have a similarly restless ride though, and the single motor car is really just as much fun on most British roads.
The refinement is fantastic, really, really good. The aerodynamics pay off, there's very little wind noise. There is a bit of tyre noise, but this test car is on 20-inch wheels, Pirelli P0 tyres. Generally, absolutely no quibbles with refinement. The brake regen in this car, standard Hyundai, which is no bad thing, because I think Hyundai and Kia have really got this sort of, well, they got it nailed really. So you can toggle through different brake regen settings, levels 1, 2 and 3, and then you can choose auto in any of those levels as well. So I think it really is the best system out there in terms of how you can easily toggle through all those different levels and use it almost like you would downshifting in a gearbox if you want to. I tend to just stick it in level 2 and auto, and that kind of does everything I want it to do.
We managed 3.8 miles per kilowatt hour in mixed rural and motorway driving in 18-degree conditions, which is good for a range of 281 miles. We'd expect that to drop to more like 220 miles on a long winter motorway drive, despite the standard efficiency boosting heat pump, while warmer weather will see range creep up to over 300 miles.
And having spent more time in the driver's seat here, I have to say there are a few little details that I really like. These sort of wings on the edge of the dash. It's just these little design details that set the Ioniq 6 apart from some of its perhaps more bland rivals. You can see these funny little dots in the steering wheel here as well. Now those apparently spell H in Morse code. And if you go for the higher spec car, they're little lights. And they show you if you're using voice commands, if you go into reverse, they change colour. I also rather like this sort of high raised central section in the cockpit. That makes it feel quite cocooned. Really fantastic kind of LED ambient lighting. You can choose all your different colours. I like everything about the car apart from that ride comfort. It's just a bit frustrating sometimes. Its biggest selling point really isn't just the fact that it looks so strikingly different, but also just that it is a bit different, isn't it? It's got that rarity appeal, quirkiness that a lot of its rivals don't have, and maybe none of its rivals do. I think there's something about this car that just feels interesting. And maybe interesting is something that we don't have enough of in this class of EVs.
Head to cargurus.co.uk for a whole host of fantastic used cars, including loads of electric options. Please do like and subscribe to the CarGurus UK YouTube channel.